Good morning. Welcome back. Well, our cinemas are still open. I went the other night. It was the first time in months that I went to the cinema. It was full. I was surprised. It was full. So, not to, I wasn't worried about my health because we don't have a lot of cases here of COVID. 15 to 20 a day, and most of them are clustered. So it's fairly safe as we wear a mask and the whole thing. But yeah, I was really surprised. People do want to go back, even though we don't have a lot of good films because, of course, Hollywood is still pretty much shut down, and all the big films are still being held back a little bit. Although there is light at the end of the tunnel. I think the James Bond film is coming next month, as far as I know, but we'll see what happens. So we're still seeing films that, yeah, they probably would have come here, but they probably wouldn't have stayed for very long. These are films that, would, in normal times might go to DVD fairly quickly, but they're not terrible. So anyhow, let me get started. The first one I want to talk about today is Host, which I should have talked about last week because it opened here last week, but I messed up. I mixed them up. I reviewed Run last week, which opens yesterday, and I didn't review Host, which opened last week. So, I switched them. So I'll talk about Host now. Now, just as Googling has become synonymous with internet searching, Zooming has become synonymous with video conferencing. And we can thank the COVID pandemic for the latter, of course. Now, everyone uses Zoom these days, whether you're a grandparent in suburban Manchester, connecting with your family around the world. I was on a 50th wedding anniversary Zoom call the other day. I was surprised. Everybody knew how to mute and unmute. And the average age of the people there was older than me. So people are finally getting it. Or, maybe you're a bunch of hapless school board officials in California who still haven't learned how to mute their bitch session from the general public. I don't know if you heard about that. Stupid. Anyhow, it's not surprising then that someone should come up with an idea come up with an idea for a film, or at least to host a Zoom seance. And maybe these things really do exist. They probably do. But if they didn't before, they will now, thanks to this film, Host. Now, in this film, we have Haley, who's played by Haley Bishop. I have no idea who she is. I've never seen her before. She decides to host a Zoom seance for 5 of her besties who are all stuck at home going stir-crazy thanks to the lockdown in the UK. This is a British film, by the way. While she'd prefer that all her friends take the activity seriously, they don't, of course. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a movie. And a few of them decide to turn it into a drinking game where they take a swig of whatever alcoholic beverage they've got in front of them every time their hired medium, who's known as Salen, who's played by a woman by the name of Salen Baxter. Do you see a pattern here? Everybody's using their real name here. Well, every time Salen says astral plane, have a drink. Now, their levity causes a malevolent spirit to appear, and the friends and the audience are forced to watch mysterious events unfold online, helpless to intervene. Now, that's what the film's all about. Now, the best thing about Host is that it's only 56 minutes long, so it doesn't overstay its welcome. Director Rob Savage, who also wrote the screenplay along with Gemma Hurley and Jed Shepard, they do a decent job updating the found footage genre to the COVID age, taking his time, setting up the premise, and delivering some good jump scares once the fun gets going. Now, being a horror mystery thriller, there'll be a few times when you're going to find yourself yelling at the screen. I know I did. I saying, "Turn the bloody lights on!" Or, "Why on earth would you go up to the attic now?" But dumb character motivations seem to be the staple of this genre. Just go with the flow. Now, I saw this at home, so, nobody minded that I yelled at the screen. But, in the audience, I would have yelled in my head. Maybe. But like in the Blair Witch Project, which is a great film, by the way, the actors are all young and with limited, if any, professional film experience. Host is not going to make household names out of any of them, but their performances here are all credible enough to give the incredible premise, given this incredible premise of the story. Now, surprisingly, our cinemas are charging full price At least they were last week. I didn't check this week. They were charging full price for a 56-minute film. That's rather chutzpahdik. Yeah, if you don't know what chutzpahdik is, look it up. Chutzpadik. They should at least pair it with a 30-minute thriller short. Instead, I fully expect that they've been subjecting their audiences to 30 minutes of trailers and adverts. Now, as I said, Host opened last week in Hong Kong. It's also available worldwide on the horror film streaming platform known as Shudder, Shudder. If you've got an hour to kill, pun intended, and you like this genre, give it a go. It does what it says on the tin. It's not a great film. It's not a bad film. And the best thing is, it's 56 minutes long. It's painless. Or at least the pain is manageable. All right, that's Host. Second film I want to talk about opened yesterday, it's called Way Down, or in other markets it's known as The Vault. I don't know why here it's not known as The Vault, but here it's known as Way Down. Way Down. Almost, you pair Host and Way Down, you think it's like a horror thriller, zombie, swamp film, something movie. I don't know. But anyhow, there's been no shortage. This is actually a heist film, and there's been no shortage of heist films over the years with directors from all over the world taking their hands trying to make one. And sure, they're rather formulaic. You know what's good. You know where it's going to go right off from the start. But they can be a lot of fun to watch if they're done right. If they're done right. Now, with Way Down, we have Spanish filmmaker Jaume, and I'm sure I'm mispronouncing Jaume, I don't know, Balaguero. He directed, I think he also wrote 3 of the 4 REC films, REC, R-E-C in square brackets. Those are horror films. And he's decided to throw his hat in the ring with a film that features a multinational cast and an alphabet soup of screenwriters. And the latter is never a good sign. When you have so many screenwriters, you right away, that's like the warning light should be flashing. Now, in this film, we have Walter Moreland, who's played by Liam Cunningham, who was Sir Davos from Game of Thrones. And he's a modern-day treasure hunter. I forget what he calls himself, a salvage professional or something like this. But, he's a modern-day treasure hunter. And no sooner has he and his team, which comprises former British MI5, or maybe it's MI6, can't remember, and it really doesn't matter, operative James, played by Sam Riley, who was in the Maleficent films and Radioactive. We have Spanish logistics guy Simon, played by Luis Tosar, who was in Balaguero's film from 2011, I think it was, called Mientras Duermes. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that as well. We have German computer hacker extraordinaire Klaus, played by Axel Stein. I've never seen him before. We have pan-European art expert. She's got one of these sort of vague accents. And she's a master of cheap wig-wearing Lorraine, played by Astrid Berges-Frisby. I think she's Spanish, actually, but Berges-Frisby doesn't really sound Spanish. So maybe she's of mixed parentage. She was in King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. Now, they all come across, they find a sunken Spanish galleon that's laden with gold and other precious items. And no sooner do they find it, that then Spanish customs authorities swoop down on their boat and confiscate the bounty, depositing it in one of the world's most impregnable vaults, located way down, there's your title, way down, inside the bowels of the Bank of Spain in Madrid. No problem getting it out, right? That's what this film's all about. Well, slight problem, because the vault is connected to a water tank that opens up and floods the chamber should the vault security get breached. That's true, by the way. I didn't know that, but that's true. Now, Moreland has done his homework, and he realizes that there's only one possible person who could figure out how to get them in and out of the vault safely. That's Cambridge University engineering student Tom Laybrick, who's played by Freddie Highmore, who was in Charlie and the Chocolate Factory years and years ago, and most recently TV's The Good Doctor. His character, Tom, is such a whiz at problem solving that companies are falling over themselves trying to recruit him. But Tom is intrigued by Moreland's offer of unimaginable riches, even though Tom seemingly comes from a wealthy family. and the prospect of doing something exciting after graduation. Now, wanting to coincide the heist with the 2010 World Cup final, when thousands of Madrid's football fans will gather outside the bank by La Fuente de Cibeles, which is Madrid's most famous fountain, to watch the game on big screens, the team immediately goes to work. But, of course, they have their share of impossible challenges along the way, including trying to outsmart the bank's diligent chief of security, Gustavo Medina, played by Jose Coronado, another Spanish actor I'm not familiar with, and he doesn't let his guard down for one moment. And the rest is rather predictable. Now, where have we seen this before? Of course, there are the natural comparisons to the Ocean's films. I'm calling this Ocean Seis, because there's 6 of them. And Tom even comments on the connection. Like, he says something about Danny Ocean. I can't remember what the line is, but it's something like that. The bigger similarity, though, is with the Netflix series Money Heist. Season 3 is exactly this story. They're trying to get money out of the vault in the Bank of Spain. And that season was released 2 years ago. Now, perhaps way down screenwriters were working on the film while the Money Heist team was working on this. That happens, I can't remember. There's been a few times. Oh, I should have written down a few examples, because I know there was actually one quite recently where you had 2 competing teams. I think you had 3. What was it? Was it Spartacus? Or was it Ben-Hur? I think it was Ben-Hur. There were 3 teams working on Ben-Hur at the same time. I think that was one. But that happens. It happens a lot. Where people talk in Hollywood, and all of a sudden you've got people going off and writing similar stories. It happens. Now, unfortunately, and you know what? When it does, the group that comes second has really got to, they've got to up their ante to make it a better story to convince people to see something that they've already seen. Unfortunately, that didn't happen here. Balaguerro gives his audience a cliche-laden film featuring a cast of B-list actors. Now, we have Highmore, who also has a producer's credit here. He has all the charisma of a soggy piece of French toast. He does have the film's best line, though, when he says, "I'm an engineer." Yeah, when I want to pull off the mother of all heists, I'm going to make sure I hire an engineering student, because no one else can problem solve like they can. My apologies to engineering students, by the way. You're good problem solvers, but not to this level. I'm sorry. But he's not the only one who suffers from a lack of charisma. We have Ian Cunningham, who perhaps played the second most boring character on Game of Thrones, and people will argue that all the characters were boring. But anyhow, the 2 that I hated were Sir Davos and Ian Glenn's Jorah Mormont. Him I really hated. I wanted to see him dead early on. You know what? Liam Cunningham is no George Clooney. And this is a huge problem with the film. I would not be putting my life in his hands, even if the potential payoff was in the hundreds of millions of euros. But the biggest casting mystery of this film, though, goes to Dutch actress Famke Janssen, who, from the X-Men franchise and the Taken franchise and TV's How to Get Away with Murder, who plays a British government official who's also a friend of Moreland. What? Couldn't the director get a British actress? He had to get a Dutch actress to fake a British accent? I don't know. Now, while Way Down is far from being a dumpster fire, I know I've really dumped on this film, but it's not a horrible film. It's just not very exciting to watch, and we've seen it all before, and we've seen it much better than this. So, you know what? Take it or leave it. My advice is leave it, save your money, skip this film. It opened yesterday in Hong Kong. Way Down. Okay, the last film I want to talk about, let me just call it on my screen. I think I do this off by heart. Is I Care a Lot. I Care a Lot, which is a Netflix film. Now, we had the Golden Globes this week, and it delivered its share of surprises, like Andra Day winning over Viola Davis or Carrie Mulligan. Like, really? You know what, look, I'll talk about Andra Day in a couple of weeks. She was good, but not that good. James Corden, come on, a nominee, give me a break. Now, but one win that didn't surprise many went to Rosalind Rosamund Pike for her performance in the genre-mashing dark comedy thriller I Care a Lot. That's not to say that the British actress was the most deserving of the Best Actress in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy Award category. Giving the Golden Globe to Maria Bakalova for her performance in Borat's subsequent movie film would have been the ballsy thing to do, for sure. But I would venture to say that Kristen Milotti deserves to be nominated for her performance in Palm Springs, perhaps even more so than some of the women who did compete in this category. But Pike did win, though, and I Care a Lot, which arrived rather quietly on Netflix on February the 19th, is now on everyone's radar for a possible Oscar nomination or two. In the film, we have Pike. We would know her from Radioactive most recently. She was in Beirut. She was in United Kingdom, and probably she's most famous for Gone Girl. She plays Marla Grayson, a tough-as-nails, hard-vaping grifter who makes a living by convincing judges to grant her guardianship over financially secure seniors whom she claims can no longer take care of themselves. With the help of her very efficient and capable right-hand woman and lover, Fran, played by Isa Gonzalez, who was an excellent Baby Driver, Grayson has built a profitable business for themselves, legally draining the entire life savings from these folks, while family members, if there are any, have to watch helplessly from the sidelines. Now, Fran and Marla seem to have bitten off a little more than they can chew, though, when they set their sights on Jennifer Peterson, who's played by Diane Wiest, who most recently was in Let Them All Talk, and she won an Oscar for Hannah and Her Sisters, and of course she was wonderful in Edward Scissorhands. Did she get a nomination? She should have gotten a nomination if she didn't. I can't remember. Jennifer is a well-off retiree who has no apparent family. Now, Jennifer, I'd say no. Marla discovers too late, or I'd say, no, let me put it this way. Jennifer, they discover too late, has a connection to crime boss Roman Lunyov, played by Peter Dinklage, of course, from TV's Game of Thrones. And he's not about to let Jennifer and her wealth fall into Marla's clutches without putting up a good fight. So we have con versus con here. Now, genre mashups seem to be all the rage these days, perhaps following upon the huge success of Jordan Peele's horror comedy political satire, Get Out. Now, I Care a Lot swings for the political satire fences as well, with its late-stage capitalistic take on the intersection that lies between the American healthcare and justice systems. The sad reality is that Marla, with her no doubt intentionally blunt cut Ivanka Trump bob, her back zip sheep dresses, and her Jimmy Choo high-heeled shoes, people like her exist in the U.S., and they take advantage of this legal but unethical gray area. Rather sad, actually. For the most part, I Care a Lot works, thanks to the performances of Pike, Dinklage, and Wiest, who all bring their A game to this project. They're the best part. The performances are the best part of this film. Where it doesn't work, though, is the film's tone, which careens wildly between comedy and film noir. Now, it's okay to have both in one story. It's allowed, you're allowed to have both in one story. That's called a mashup. But writer-director Jay Blakeson struggles to find the right balance between the two, and that makes for a slightly frustrating viewing experience. It goes too extreme, from one to the other, rather than, playing it right down the middle, or like that. Now, some viewers may also find the film a tad misogynistic, with a fair bit of violence being meted out to the film's female characters. Now, there are some male characters who get their faces smashed up as well, but not as much as the female characters. Now, the biggest problem with the story, though, is that everyone in this film is nasty, and that makes it hard for the audience to take a side. Now, I must admit, I was in Roman's camp, but, that was a hard choice as well. But that's only because we know less of what he's capable of than we do of Marla. Marla's a more fleshed out character for us, for the audience. And I just thought, well, Roman is the lesser of two evils. Probably in real life he's not, but I would say as far as what we see, he is, and I took his side on it. But it's difficult when you have two people. You don't really, and not just them, but like everybody in this film. They're not nice people. Not one person is nice in this film. And while the film's ending may bring the viewers some iota of satisfaction, to me it didn't go far enough in its indictment of the system that it's supposed to be lampooning. You know, if you have The Big Short, you know, and there's elements of this film that are reminiscent of The Big Short with the voiceover. You know, if you're going to lampoon it, just go for it. But to me, it just didn't go far enough. And this may explain why audiences are far less enthusiastic than critics are. Critics are loving this film, and audiences are rather like this. You know what? To me, this film is entertaining. The performance, as I said, the performances are really good. I think, yeah, it suffers from weak direction, tonal shifting like this, and a story that doesn't really hit the mark, as it doesn't get as close to the mark as it should have, as it needed to go there. But hey, it won a Golden Globe, you know. So as I said, I Care a Lot is streaming now on Netflix. It's worth checking out. I don't know that it'll win any Oscars. I don't know if it'll be nominated for any Oscars. I guess we'll find out. To me, the Golden Globe win was a gimme, courtesy of 87 Out of Touch white movie critics. That's it for this week, 8:52. Have a great week. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. Yeah, you know, slowly, we're starting to get better films here. So I've got a lot coming up in the next couple weeks, and I'm looking forward to talking about them. And I'm also looking forward to getting my vaccines. I'm getting it not next week, a week and a half from now. Yay! All right. Good week. Have a good weekend. Please remember, wherever you are, keep wearing your mask. Please social distance, and wash your hands an awful lot. It doesn't, you know what, even though Texas and Mississippi don't think it's important, or the governments don't think it's important, it's important. See ya.